Hello everypony, and welcome to my review of One Bad Apple. When I heard that MLP was going to tackle the ever-growing problem of bullying in this episode, I was ecstatic. I knew that, if done right, this episode would be a beacon for bronies and children alike to look to when they themselves are being victimized by bullies, whether it be for enjoying MLP or anything else. The timing of this episode's release was also impeccable. Bronies and children alike needed an episode that talked about this subject matter. Cindy Morrow has proven herself to be the writer most well-versed in brony issues. Both Read It and Weep and Hurricane Fluttershy tackled problems that bronies have struggled with. And with her at the helm of this episode as well, which deals with yet another problem plaguing the brony fandom, I was super excited to see what she would do with this episode. So, let's see if Cindy Morrow can knock another Morrow out of the park in One Bad Apple. Our episode begins with Apple Bloom in a scenario that I'm sure many people can relate to, trying to find a proper outfit that will make a good first impression. Apple Bloom's cousin, Bab Seed, is visiting from Manhattan, and Apple Bloom has never met her before. I find this to be a slight stretch, since we've seen the extended Apple family get together a few times in the show already. Granted, it's still very possible that Babs never showed up to these get-togethers. In fact, come to think of it, I don't think we've seen Applejack's Aunt and Uncle Orange at an Apple family reunion ever before either, and they're also from Manhattan. Maybe Manhattan is farther from Ponyville than the rest of the cities where the Apples live? Hold on a second. Well, I'll be damned. That theory actually makes sense. Manhattan is way farther from Ponyville than Appaloosa is, so it wouldn't be that unrealistic to say that a trip from Manhattan to Ponyville would be way too long and expensive to warrant visiting for a simple little get-together. Granted, we do see Babs come back later this season for one of these get-togethers, but after the events in this episode, perhaps Babs saved up some money to make this trip so she could spend some time with her favorite cousin, Apple Bloom. Okay, I'm on board. Let's continue. Applejack then tells Apple Bloom that Babs actually doesn't have her cutie mark, and this makes Apple Bloom even more excited to meet her cousin. One theme song later, we see the CMC eagerly awaiting the arrival of Babs at the train station, fully expecting her to want to become a fellow cutie mark crusader.
Oh, look at Scootaloo! Behold Best Horse and her adorable dirt face! Oh, and there's Sweetie Belle, too. I guess she's cute, too. But as cute as Orange Philly! Scootaloo, Scootaloo, Scootaloo! Oh, hail adorable Scootaloo!
Hey, you go back to your room. I have to be professional here. You know you aren't welcome in these reviews. Go on, scoot!
You mean like Best Horse Scootaloo?
Just go! Ugh. Sorry about that, you guys. Inner fanboy. He likes to try to sneak in during Scootaloo scenes. Anyways, once Bab Seed, gets off the train, the CMC are ecstatic to meet her. Personally, I'm not a super fan of Babs' New York accent, even after all these times I've seen this episode. It's like they purposefully gave her this accent to stress that she's from the pony equivalent of New York City, which in the real world does have a huge Italian-American population. However, I don't think that using this accent in such a way really adds anything to Babs' character or the plot. We as the audience don't really gain anything out of having this accent present. I personally would have enjoyed it more if Babs talked like a normal pony without this stereotypical accent. It doesn't distract from her character or take anything away from it. I just thought it was completely unnecessary. I have to admit, the CMC are being kinda stupid in this scene where they show Babs their clubhouse.
Except Scootaloo, because she's adorable and awesome.
Didn't I tell you to shut up when I'm doing a review? As I was saying, it's easy to think that the CMC are being kind by letting Babs into their clubhouse and wanting to help her get her cutie mark. But this scene just shows me how they've totally become out of touch with how being a blank flank feels. It seems that since the CMC found each other, their friendship has helped defend them from the hate and social pressures of being blank flanks. This is shown quite well in this scene. As friends, they view being a blank flank as a challenge to find their cutie marks. Because of this friendship, they've forgotten how bad it feels to be a blank flank. This isn't a fault with the episode or the CMC, though, as it helps foreshadow the future conflict as well as show how strong the bond between the three fillies has become over the course of the series. It's just a little closed-minded of the CMC in this scene, that's all. In light of that, the CMC mistake Babs' discomfort with her blank flank for a lack of interest in joining the Crusaders. Thinking they need to impress Babs more, they decide to let her ride with them on their float for the upcoming Summer Harvest Parade, or as it's commonly known, Generic Ponyville Festival number 286. As the CMC show Babs the float, Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon somehow manage to trespass on private property to do their usual harassment of the Crusaders. I know many fans hate these two for their bullying and their lack of character beyond their desire to partake in said bullying, but I, on the other hand, enjoy them. Why? Because when I look at Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon, I see raw, untapped potential. About 9 months ago, I did a podcast on my Raw account with my friend Cider from Everfree Studios about some of our headcanons from the show. We both agreed that Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon were not born as bullies, but are instead victims of circumstance. I mentioned how Diamond Tiara is probably a bully because her mother left her at a young age, and her father was always too busy working to spend any time with her. Another reason why Diamond Tiara acts the way she does towards the Crusaders is that she's jealous of their untapped potential because she herself hates her cutie mark. She wishes she could go back to being a blank flank and try again. Her cutie mark, at least in my interpretation, means that her special talent is being rich and stuck up. Diamond Tiara doesn't want to be this way, and that's why she mocks the Crusaders for their blank flanks. In the case of Silver Spoon, I think that she's gravitated towards Diamond as a friend because she had a similar upbringing. Her name and cutie mark is slang for someone who is born into privilege and has everything handed to them. Being from the same level of class as Diamond, perhaps she felt that Diamond was going to be the only pony who understood the struggles of being rich. I don't think that Silver Spoon enjoys being a bully, but in fact only does it as a way to ensure Diamond will never leave her as a friend. Without Diamond, Silver Spoon would be friendless, so she tags along in Diamond's behavior even though she may not like it, just to stay in Diamond's good graces, so she doesn't have to be alone. Up until this point, whenever Diamond and Silver have harassed the Crusaders, we've seen the CMC choose the option of not fighting back against them. Here, we see a different option on how to react to bullying taking effect. Once Diamond Tiara starts laying into Babs about her possibly joining the Crusaders, Babs decides to choose the side of the bullies instead of the bullied. Babs destroys the float that the Crusaders had made, leaving the CMC shocked and in tears. There is a very weird instance of bad lip syncing here, but it's a minor technical error, and it's fixed in a flashback later in this episode. Just thought I'd make a note of it. I love how Sweetie Belle here has the right answer all along. She's definitely the standout character of this episode for me. But because no one wants to tell Applejack about Babs' attitude due to the fear of being branded as snitches, they do the most reasonable thing they can think of. They try to avoid her. I have to admit, I like how this is portrayed here. Usually when it comes to bullies, adults will teach their children one of two ways to react: fight back, or ignore and avoid them. I'm glad to see that this episode shows how both of these ways of behaving are wrong. Sure, the CMC try to avoid Babs the best they can, but they soon realize it's unavoidable, and that's why the message here is so great. Avoiding and ignoring bullies doesn't work these days. Maybe it did in the past for older generations, but not in the modern age where bullies stalk their prey's Facebook and go out of their way to find them at school and in public. And we learn this lesson through a brand new musical number called Bad Seed. And oh boy is this song catchy. The chorus and the hook just make you want to sing along and bounce to the beat. This is definitely the best song of the season thus far. My only complaint with this number is that the visuals can get a bit repetitive at times, but it doesn't ruin this amazing song in the slightest. Since the latter of the two ways of dealing with bullies didn't work for the CMC and Babs Seed has practically captured the Crusaders clubhouse as her own base of operations, our three markless fillies decide to try the former option: fight back. They do this by building a new float rigged with a booby trap that disengages the steering wheel from the axle when the timer runs out. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't impressed by this feat of engineering from Three Little Fillies. I don't even think I could do something like that, and I'm an adult. At the parade, the CMC taunt Babs into wanting to hijack their float from them, but it's all part of their plan. Once Babs steals the CMC's float, they think they've won and that Babs will soon get her comeuppance. However, Applejack, who is none the wiser about anything going on between Babs and the CMC, soon informs them that the entire reason Babs came to visit Ponyville was to get away from the bullies in Manhattan who were teasing her for her blank flank.
Does it taste? Bullies?
And it was at that moment that the CMC knew they done goofed. They quickly put two and two together about why Babs had been behaving the way that she did, and they immediately regret trying to retaliate against her. Now that the Crusaders have had a change of heart, the race is on to save Babs from the ticking time bomb of a booby trap that they had set into motion on their float. Although this is an almost dead serious episode, I'm glad to see they incorporated the highest level of comedy here.
Pinkie Pie!
In a heroic act of self-sacrifice, the Crusaders managed to reach the float just in time and knock Babs out, taking the plunge into the pit of mud themselves.
Maybe we'll get our cutie marks and stupidest ideas of all time.
Applebloom, if that were the case, you would have all gotten your cutie marks a long time ago. Applejack then reveals the true way to deal with bullies. Talk to an adult. The adult, if they are to be trusted in being responsible and taking your feelings seriously, will always help you deal with bullies. This was the perfect moral to teach, and while the context it was given in may not be 100% relevant to adults, since, well, the solution basically is adults, that's not to say an older audience can't take away a good message from this episode. One Bad Apple teaches fans that oftentimes bullies are victims in their own way and not inherently bad people. Also, even if you are an adult and having to deal with bullying, you can always reach out to others who care about you for support. Finally, this episode ends with Babs officially being inducted into the Cutie Mark Crusaders. An interesting plot point in the overarching CMC story arc that I'm absolutely positive won't be immediately thrown away at the first opportunity possible to act as a plot device for a future—
Except this letter from Babs Seed saying she's got her cutie mark.
Never mind. So, what did I think of One Bad Apple? I think this episode's amazing, and as I said earlier, it came at a time when bronies needed this message from MLP. Around the original air date of this episode, bullying towards the community was at an all-time high, so much so that it was starting to enter the mainstream news. Not only does this message give bronies something to look to for guidance when they are feeling harassed about their love for MLP, but the episode gives us a great new character as well as lots of great moments with the CMC. The episode flows smoothly and the pacing feels natural. The foreshadowing is also a nice touch to this episode that it didn't need to teach its lesson, but was a very welcome addition. The song was memorable, and this was just a fun episode with a great message overall. As usual, I like to rate episodes on a 3-tiered system of rewatch it, watch it once, or skip it. One Bad Apple is surely one I'd rate as a rewatch it. Not just for the entertaining story, but as a reminder that bullying is a solvable problem and you don't have to suffer under a bully's thumb when you can take action. As always, I'm Critical Thought, and I will see you all in my next video. Never stop thinking critically.